headlines started flashing recently as the United States of America announced a diplomatic boycott. They are boycotting the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, China. Soon, a bunch of influential powers joined the bandwagon, including Australia, the United Kingdom, and Canada. Rest, we assume, are weighing their options as China warned countries would pay a price for their wrong moves. To be clear, the diplomatic boycott, as the title suggests, is a diplomatic boycott, while athletes from those countries will continue to participate. I must also point out that many countries and heads of states have also notified China that they wouldn't be sending any diplomatic representatives, but that is largely due to COVID concerns among other factors. Now, almost 90 countries will be participating in the Winter Olympics, and the majority of governments are unlikely to join the diplomatic boycott. While Tibetan, Uyghur, Southern Mongolian, Hong Kong, and Taiwanese rights group put their weight behind the boycott campaign. What are these countries boycotting for? China is accused of genocide due to widespread allegations of atrocities against the Uyghur community. The Uyghurs are the largest ethnic minority group in Xinjiang region of China. It is located in the northwest of China, hence, culturally and ethnically, Uyghurs are closer to Central Asian countries than they are to Han Chinese, who are native to Greater China. Language spoken by Uyghurs sounds similar to Turkish, and they are mostly Muslims. In theory, Xinjiang has some power of self-governance, like Tibet, but in practice, the fate of both regions are anything but autonomous. Uyghurs have always had a difficult relationship with the authorities. They briefly declared independence in the early 20th century, only to find themselves under complete control of China with its new communist government in 1949. Similar sentiments rose again and again in the last 3 decades. Tensions, resentment, and discrimination led to riots in 2009, which killed almost 200 people, most of them Han Chinese. However, this incident was labeled as religious extremism, resulting in massive security crackdown by the Chinese government. Human Rights Watch say the region is covered by a web of surveillance network. Besides checkpoints, the CCTV cameras not only pick up number plates but are now equipped with facial recognition system. Policing goes as far as keeping track of people's behavior, like how often and when they enter their own home. The government has a list of 75 behavioral indications of religious extremism. The information once collected is fed into a predictive policing system that monitors for potential threat. We all know how effective algorithms are, as they continue to target us with the advertisement of things we already bought online. Anyways, President Xi Jinping issued an order in 2017 for all regions of China to be Chinese-oriented. On the other note, an influx of Han Chinese has been observed, which is alleged to be state-orchestrated migration in order to dilute Uyghurs. Authoritative positions in any sector are often held by Han Chinese, further suppressing Uyghurs. Xinjiang is largely desert, rich in oil and natural gas, and it produces about a fifth of world's cotton. Human Rights Watch have also raised concerns about Uyghurs being subjected to forced labor to pick cotton. It doesn't end there. Many reports since have surfaced saying they are being shipped, not necessarily at their own will, to work in factories across China. One of their products include masks that we wear in response to the pandemic. In 2018, the United Nations Human Rights Committee said it possesses credible reports that China was holding people in counter-extremism centers located in Xinjiang. China calls its network of detention camps as re-education camps for Uyghurs and other Muslims. Proactive policing, remember, where you can be in prison just because you are capable of committing a crime. In 2020, reports suggest the presence of at least 380 of these camps holding more than 1 million people at any given point in time. Leaked documents China cables leave no doubt that camps were intended to be run as a high security prisons. People who have managed to escape the camp have reported extreme mental and physical torture justified as punishment against strict discipline measures. Reports that periodically surface suggest various means of suppressing the population, like separating children from their families and interfering with cultural traditions. A genocide is defined by the International Convention as the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. There is an ethnic group in China being systematically surveilled and imprisoned at a largest scale since the Holocaust. Evidently, history is repeating itself. Hence, several countries like the United States, Canada, and Netherlands have accused China of committing genocide. China was criticized during 2008 Summer Olympics for its human rights abuse. It continues to face criticism before the 2022 Winter Olympics for its crime against humanity. The genocide is one example. Boycotting the Winter Olympics in China by not sending a team of diplomats, will it matter? Apart from raising awareness, the boycott is likely to have minimal political impact. So, should you send a team of diplomats to the country which sends its own citizens to a re-education camp on suspicion of applying for a passport? A camp where students are not allowed to make contact with the outside world, and where activities are strictly managed and controlled to prevent students from escaping. Yes, you should. Otherwise, it is unfair to the athletes for whom it is an ultimate opportunity. National Olympic committees must go, not only to support their own players, but also to increase diplomatic pressure. Will boycott work? Besides hurting the sentiments of the head of state, everything else remains intact. A diplomatic boycott becomes more effective the more governments take part. In this instance, we will have to wait till mid-January 2022 to get a clearer picture. As of now, it is very unlikely to gather much steam. Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America are already facing a backlash from France, following the trilateral defense deal, which, according to France, was originally contracted to a French company by the Australian government. France thinks boycotts are symbolic and hence insignificant, so it will not join the diplomatic boycott. While Germany is slowly realizing the change in its leadership, the collective stance of the European Union on this matter is likely to be influenced by the French. There must also be a debate about why China was awarded to host the game in the first place, and why declaring a full boycott is not on the cards yet. The middle ground tends to breed exceptions, and the aggressor gets yet another chance to push the envelope, to push that red line a little further and test the tolerance. I know stricter measures are highly unlikely given China's economic influence, but by not doing so, we see the formation of a new bloc, an alliance which is not only opposed to the Western school of thought, but the traditional understanding of democracy itself. West is indefensible given its history of slavery and wiping out indigenous people, but that is no justification for China to continue to exploit while branding it differently. The world is changing. We are witnessing the shift in global order. These last few years, we have seen China actively locking horns with the United States of America. Are we circling back to the bipolar world instead of the multipolar reality? Participation and communication becomes important here. Soft diplomatic protest has a limited impact. A collective actionable gesture is required to keep the pressure on. But none of that is going to happen unless people pay attention. Thank you for listening to me as you continue to be in conversation with Mohit.